Hey, it's John from Level the Playing Field. Don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms. We're on TikTok at LPF Podcast, Instagram at LPF Podcast, and Twitter at LPF Podcast 86. And while you're at it, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe on any platform that you're listening to our podcast.
About to find out. All right, so this is Level the Playing Field. I'm Dave, and instead of John, I'm here with Brent from the 1420 podcast. Thanks for coming by today.
Not a problem. I got not much else going on at the moment, so nice little chat about some baseball. Be a welcome. Other than the voice in my head, talking to somebody else for once during the day.
No big time contracts assigned today.
None at all. No, we're good.
So this is just gonna be a little deviation of a regular episode. I'm not around this week to record with John, so hopefully we're gonna have a fill-in guy record with him. But I had a bunch of thoughts about this this incident with Kevin Gausman and Jeff Nelson from the weekend, and I didn't feel like waiting 2 weeks to talk about it when nobody would even remember it happened. So Brent here, as if you've listened to our past episodes before, or if you listen to 1420, he is actually umpire for semi-professional league, right? Semi-pro or
Some are called semi-pro, yeah, semi-pro baseball.
The WCBL or WCBL.
WCBL, yeah, you're right.
So I thought he would have a pretty interesting perspective on it. So for those who don't know, Kevin Gausman was pitching on I don't know, one day this weekend, Monday night,
and Labor Day, yeah, the front end of a doubleheader, I believe it was,
right? Yeah. And so it's about the fourth inning, and it was the first time he had to pitch with a runner on base, and the first pitch of that at bat, he was called for a balk, and so that's where basically it's the whole lead up to it. He was called for a balk. And so the question is, and I think Brent and I agree from the brief conversation we've had, is whether or not it was actually a balk.
So, yeah, 100% it was a balk. My problem with Jeff Nelson on that, the way he called that, like you said, Dave, he called it on the very first pitch that there was a runner on base. Usually, and I mean, you're not like as an umpire, you're not out there to be a cop. You're out there to officiate the game. He could have handled that differently. With the way when Nelson called that told me that call was going to happen no matter what the situation was. He was going to he had it in the pregame meeting or at the home plate meeting or something before the game even started. It could have been the Baltimore manager. His name passed me for a second here. At the home plate meeting, say, "Hey, you're going to watch for this guy. You guys know he balks. We've heard you warn him before. We're in a wild card situation where we need runners to move on the base." That call was premeditated, and as an official, I thought it was a bullshit move by Nelson to make that call in that situation. I'm also against warning professional athletes of their indiscretions, because they do know better. And so they shouldn't be making that move. But like I said, the way it was handled by the official by Jeff Nelson, who's a horseshit umpire, in my opinion, it was pretty bush league from my point of view.
Yeah, as much as I'd love to sit here and defend my guy as a Jays fan, I feel like everybody's wrong here, because in Gausman's post-game interview, he even mentioned that tons of times in the past he's been warned about this. So just very, very quickly, for those who are listening who may not be super into baseball, a balk is when you intentionally attempt to deceive a base runner. And so when you come to your set right before you start to pitch, you have to actually stop your motion completely, and then you can start a new motion towards home plate, and it has to either be towards home plate or towards first base. You can't be intentionally deceiving the runner. So Gausman does this thing where when he comes set, his front foot bounces, right? And he'll bounce 5 or 6 times and then he'll go to home plate. So really he should be, if he wants to bounce his foot, whatever, but that's still a continuous motion. He has to stop, pause, make sure everyone can see that he pauses, and then go home. Where he has a very quick transition between this bouncing and when he goes home. And yeah, so it's a balk, and he's been warned of it several times by his own admission.
Yeah, his post game interview, I watched it this morning again, just to be, when we said we were going to do this. I watched his post game interview, and okay, you're a professional athlete, make an adjustment, man. You've been told to not do this anymore. Quit doing it. It drives me nuts. Like you coach kids baseball. I umpire all levels of baseball. It drives me nuts why a pitcher can't just put his hands together, stop his feet, and then go. They have all these different moves and these cadences and these different ways they do things, and it causes problems mainly for the umpire, because every time that something happens and something's out of the ordinary, the team on the offense is bitching about it. And right. So, like I said, it causes a big headache for the officials on the field. If a guy would just put his hands together with his feet like he did when you were 12 years old and just do it that way with all these different things, the way Stroman has his different quick pitches and everything else, it makes the umpires happy on their toes. But I don't, like you were saying, Dave, I don't understand why Gausman doesn't change his way of doing things and have a pitching coach say, hey, because if this happens in the playoffs, you know, Lord willing, the Jays get there, which I think that they should be okay for a wild card spot. What happens if an umpire doesn't call that exact same thing in a wild card game with 2 out in the ninth? I mean, Gausman wouldn't be in there in the ninth, but you know what I'm getting at.
Well, he could be. He could be pitching a gem. Could be 0-0. Could be 1-0.
Guys don't go 9, man. Guys don't go 9.
No,
I know
not
what you're
normally,
saying,
but it could happen.
Yeah.
It could be a situation where it's like game 7 and like he pitched in game 4 and he's coming.
Yeah, and just emptying out the tank, emptying out whoever's got a pitch left in him. Absolutely.
Right, but that's not really the important part here.
No.
All he really has to do, it doesn't even take any adjustment. He just has to stop. Like just bounce, do whatever you want to do. Stop and then go. Where Nelson is like way out of line is that like he didn't change his motion the entire game and didn't call a single other balk. And so as much as Gausman's been warned in the past, he has 2 balks this year and 4 in his entire career.
Yeah.
So whatever he's doing, nobody else has really thought that much of it to make a big deal of it. And like, so as much as we both agree he should probably make this slight adjustment, like if no one else is calling it and you're calling it the first pitch of the first batter he pitches out of the stretch, then like you said, it's obviously premeditated. And like Nelson's issues with the Jays go back to like 2015 in the playoffs.
Bad. He had that game earlier this season where he was like 82% strikes.
I heard 68
or even worse. Like I didn't want to be this gets out to the masses and people go, yeah, you were fucking way. Okay, I'm sorry, I got it wrong, but whatever. He has had a rough year, and that was basically a look at me on the umpire thing. He got reprimanded by his superiors, or maybe he does have a hard on for the Jays. It was bad form, and I saw a split screen this morning about different ways Gausman was pitching throughout the game. It was the exact same motion. So if it was a balk on the first pitch, call it on the 5th pitch, call it on the keep calling it. Exactly. If Gausman doesn't want to make that adjustment, then keep calling it. So that tells me that it wasn't really a balk. I personally would not have called that. I would have made something up for the third base coach to tell him, yeah, you stop, fuck off, shut up. We're not doing this.
But I don't remember seeing the Orioles really up in arms.
No.
And they would know better than anybody. They had him in their organization for 7 years. Right.
That's another valid point. They would know, okay, this guy hasn't adjusted. This is what he's been doing ever since he came up into the big leagues, pitched in the minor leagues. This is what he does. They probably taught him that when it comes down to it, right?
Or they just didn't teach it out of him or whatever. Right? They definitely know it's there.
Yeah, so it's I would never have made that call, especially on the very first pitch, because like as an umpire, you're supposed to pay attention to all that stuff, but there's sometimes you kind of just forget that the balk is a thing. I mean, it's shitty to say, but you got so much other crap going on, and when it's the first, like you're kind of looking at the hands more so than the feet, and. Yeah. And if the hands and the shoulders aren't causing a problem, there's a good chance that guy wasn't running anyways. There's all kinds of things that go into a balk being called, and I would never in a million years call that one a balk.
No,
Never.
yeah, it would for me. I umpired, and I was never like umpiring at your level, but I umpired a bit when I was a kid, and I was a pitcher as well. So like balking was like something I thought about a lot, and for me, it would have to be something that was much more intentionally trying to deceive the runner before I was calling anything. Like more similar. So like I'm a lefty. When I was pitching and we had leadoffs,
nightmare. Yeah.
Whenever there was a runner on first, I moved into a slide step. And my intention was never to tip the runner on first base, whether I was going to him or going home. Every pitch, the motion looked exactly the same. The only difference was, and this is, I think I only got called once, maybe twice, is I would stop my step at exactly 45 degrees between first and home.
Smart move.
And before when I threw to first, right? And I was always right on the line between a balk and not a balk. Some teams complained. Usually the umpire had my back. A couple times I got called. Like that's much more of like something I would pay attention to than whatever the hell this stupid bounce step that he does. Like it really like that's not deceiving the runner. That's just
I don't think so
especially when
either.
he does the same thing every single time.
And that's the thing that I noticed about Gausman. A lot of major league pitchers is if you're consistent with your move and your set or whatever you want to call it, with how you deliver the ball towards home plate, if you're consistent, umpires aren't going to call it, and the other team isn't going to say a word. They're not. They're going to go, okay, good enough. This is what he does. You're not deceiving us. Stolen baser is such a premium, anyways. If you're begging for a balk, you're probably not going to win that game anyways. So just go out and play the game and don't worry about a balk, because if that's the make or break of your season, yes, it could come down to that in 4 weeks when the season ends. And it could, because like I said, the Orioles they're hanging on by a thread. I think if they would have lost that game last night, they would be in big trouble, because it would have been 5.5 out of a wild card spot. Now you're 3.5 out and you still got a chance. But it's if you're begging for balks to win ball games, which the Orioles, they probably weren't, because it was the first guy who got on base all game long, like you said. For Nelson to make that call, he was being a cop and not an official, and that's not what you want to do when you're out in the ball field.
Well, and it continued last night when he was behind the plate too. His calls were terrible. Both teams were all over him, and then he threw out Schneider. He warned the benches over some stupid thing, and then threw out Schneider like almost immediately.
Yeah, I'm a fuck.
I guess you don't know what Schneider said. He could have called him a cunt or something, and then you got to him, but like
said something about his mom or something. Who knows? But like it's they're going to get to automated umpires. There's no doubt about that. It kind of makes me sad, because I do like the human element of the game. I get it. There's so much money on the line. There's so much going on. Things are going so fast all the time. The way the game has changed. The game's changed in 10 years, let alone in 20 and 30 years. It's just a different game. And with the technology we have and everything else, there's no way that it's not going to come around. It might be speaking differently in a couple of years or something. If the Richie Garcia call in 1996, the Jeter home run would have went a different way for me with instant replay. I might have a different thought process on automated strikes and umpires and instant replay and everything else. I personally hate it, because I'm more of a baseball traditionalist, but I get why it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, that's more or less all I had about the balk. Did you see the Brian Baker stuff last night? I know you're not a Jay fan. Did you see the altercation between the Orioles and the Jays?
Yes.
What a knob! Like just nobody pitchers beaking at the fucking bench because he's pissed off that he got cut or whatever it was. Like, Just shut the fuck up and go back to the bench.
Just go to the bench. Don't stir the pot. Don't get things going. The best way to avoid a situation is avoid the situation. Don't get these guys pissed off.
You wanted a situation.
You want it. You want to get guys riled up, but you're in a situation where you're in the lead. You're playing for your lives at that moment. Don't rile up the other team. Like, don't. And then they got another game today, and I think they got 2 more series with Baltimore. 2 more 3-gamers, I believe.
I think they might have 2 games left with Baltimore, actually. Like today and tomorrow. I thought it was a 5 games in 4 days situation.
Oh, because there was a doubleheader.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably more right about that situation than I am. But yeah, don't poke the bear. Like, don't. You especially in games that you need to win and you need to be in the game. And if you get in a situation where you get, and now that's actually one thing I want to bring up with you, was when Bo Bichette came between Gausman and Nelson. That might have saved that, not just that game for the Jays, but the next game as well. Because if you got to go to your bullpen in a doubleheader, the first game of doubleheader early, that could be a heck of a problem. And I think that Bichette might have. He was a big factor in that for the Jays sweeping that doubleheader.
Yeah, you're right. That made a huge difference. That's kind of not a similar situation, but that's kind of how the Orioles got messed up too, because their projected starter for that first game was out.
Yeah,
he was sick, and then he also missed the second game. They had to do a bullpen day. Yeah, but just imagine Gausman gets kicked out of that game in I said it was the 4th. It might have been the 3rd or something. I don't know. It was
3rd or 4th inning. Yeah,
you're using your bullpen for 6 innings. And then Pat, or whatever the guy's name, White, I think it's Pat White. Rick,
yeah.
Only went 2 last night, and now you, in the span of 3 games, or you've used your bullpen for 16 innings. It's
tough, and then you got a lot of games in a lot of days coming up here, and there's not many rest days left for the rest of the season. So it's going to be interesting that the next few weeks. I think the Jays will be okay. The Yankees, I don't know so much. I actually believe that if something happens, that if the Yankees don't win the division, I don't think they'll be in a wild card spot.
I think they'll fall right out.
I think they'll fall right out. I really believe that.
I don't know I guess it depends if Seattle gets hot or something. I don't think the Orioles have it in them to finish off the season ahead of the Yankees, but yeah, I don't know.
I think the Yankees have it in them to blow it, though. That's the problem. There's trouble in Pleasant Valley there, man. It's not what you want. It's not good, but anyways.
So I heard. I didn't see it myself. I heard saw you tweet that Stanton's out now. How long is he out?
Stanton is out, I think, 10 days. I think he's on the. Not the 10 days it's officially put on it, but yeah, whenever something happens, he's a hang there or something, Stanton's out. That guy just can't stay healthy. Foul ball off his shin. He's got problems with his feet and his legs all year long. It just he just can't stay healthy, and I don't understand how the game's changed so much where these guys get hurt and they're just like the littlest things and they're gone. Too much conditioning, maybe, I don't know. There's just too. It's odd. It's odd that the Yankees, they run into some injury problems throughout. Every team gets them, though, but it just seems like their big guns, that when they go down, and Rizzo's out now, he's on the 10-day because he got sick and he got some injection. Now he's getting migraines and can't get out of bed and everything else. So Rizzo's out, and the Yankees are pitching staff, and Chapman with his stupid. Well, I'm actually glad that Chapman went and got that tattoo and got a leg infection, because he's been terrible for a while now. So I'm kind of happy that he's gone, and he probably won't be wearing pinstripes, or maybe actually his career might be over when it comes down to it.
Yeah, I can't imagine anybody else taking on that baggage for the production he's been giving up.
Yeah, it's like he was, I think, $14 million this year. He's not going to pitch for 500,000. And the thing is with him, everybody throws 100 now. And so what's he actually bring to your team? An aging guy with like you said, a lot of baggage underneath him. So
right. All right. Well, thanks for coming by to talk to me today, Brent.
Not a problem, man. Anytime.
Have a good perspective on baseball. So
I do my best. Sometimes a lot of bullshit, but I seem to worm my way through it just like I do in the field. Just it kind of works for me. So, anyways, no, it's good to be on. I hope to hear you guys again. It's been a while since you guys put a show out.
We had one last Tuesday, I think. But we missed my work schedule and John going back to school and baseball finishing up is put a wrench into some stuff. But
it's life gets in the way. There's no doubt about that. So just guys keep plugging along. We'll do this again soon, someday.
Great. Thanks.
Okay, man. Talk to you.